Well, good evening and welcome. My name is Bill Naeger, and obviously I'm your host and moderator for this evening. Welcome to the St. Genevieve Candidates Forum. Thank you to the candidates for showing up this evening, giving the public a chance to get to know your views on things. Tonight's program is being hosted by the St. Genevieve Herald, who has prepared the questions for the evening, and Mark Evans from the Herald will be running the time clock for us. We have with us also St. Genevieve Public Television recording tonight, not live. We're not live on TV this evening, but Charles hopes to have this program available tomorrow in the afternoon or evening. So check Facebook and or the YouTube channel for that. Let your friends know that they can get in it too, or maybe you want to watch it a second time. Anyway, as I said, I'll give you a brief rundown of how the evening is going to proceed, and then we will begin with opening remarks, first from our prosecuting attorney candidates, and then secondarily, or later in the program, from our state representative candidates. The evening will be two questions presented, first to both of the prosecuting attorney candidates. They'll have 3 minutes. First 3 minutes to have opening remarks of your own, all righty? And then following that, I'll address the questions to you. We'll have to take turns here at the podium. I'm used to a situation where I'm at a table and you're at a table and we don't have to hop up and down, but tonight we're going to get our exercise. So with that, and Mark and I discussed that, the candidates have not seen or heard these questions yet. I and Mark are the only two that are aware of what this evening's questions are, so we decided that having you come up here cold turkey is a little bit a loaded gun, so I'm going to give you the questions now that you may have, and you can consider them, and then later on I'll do the same for the state representative candidates. That way you have a little time to deliberate and ask, think about what you're going to address. You'll each have your turn responding, and one of you will go first with the first question, followed by the other candidate, and then for the second question, we'll just reverse that order. Okay? All right. So, let me introduce first our two candidates for prosecuting attorney, and that is our contender, Sue Sheehan, who is with us here this evening, and I'll invite you up in a moment to address the audience. And then with us also is our incumbent, Wayne Williams. Thank you both for being here this evening. And so here are the two questions we'll be posing to you this evening. The first question will be, what is your position on cash bail? And how should wealth factor into pretrial detention decisions? I'll repeat that. What is your position on cash bail? And how should wealth factor into pretrial detention decisions? And your second question, or if you're ready, is what is your position on using prosecutorial discretion in order to get better witness cooperation or to address racial or financial disparities? Let me repeat that. What is your position on using prosecutorial discretion in order to get better witness cooperation or to address racial or financial disparities? And I will be repeating those questions at the time of your response. So with that, and let me look through my notes and make sure I have covered all the other housekeeping details here. I think so. So with that, Sue Sheehan, would you like to come up, please, and give us your opening remarks? You have, yeah. And that is part of the housekeeping I failed to mention, and that is that each candidate will have 3 minutes for their opening remarks and 3 minutes to respond. Mark, being our timekeeper, will be waving a 10-second flag, letting you know that you have 10 more minutes to do a quick wrap-up of what you're saying. Okay? So, with that, Ms. Sheehan, if you would come forward and give us your opening remarks, please.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Sue Sheehan, and a lot of people don't know me. Some do know me, and people have asked me, well, who are you? So, and what are my qualifications? So I decided to go through those.
Excuse me. Can everybody hear okay? Okay. You have to be
What'd they
pretty
say?
close on the microphone.
Yes.
Yeah, much
There
better.
we go. Yeah, I'm Sheehan, and a lot of people have asked me my qualifications for this potential job. And so I decided to start with that. Now, I have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a Juris Doctor degree in law. I have a guardian ad litem certificate that I have to renew every year that makes me able to get appointed by the court and represent abused and neglected kids. And by the way, every single order of protection, and I think I've done most in the county for the last decade, I've done for free, without any compensation, because it's so important. Next, I practiced with my brother. Both my brothers were lawyers, and I practiced criminal law for a long time with them before I came here. And finally, when I took the bar exam, I scored very high. I passed the first exam, and I scored so high that I was invited to join the bar in several other states without having had to sit for the bar. So I've lived in St. Genevieve for over a decade now, although we had a place at Rocky Ridge, and I spent a lot of time there for about 40 years. And I know a few people here in the audience. As guardian ad litem, what I do is since I've come here, I've been guardian ad litem. I represent abused and neglected kids. I'm the front line, I think. I'm the first one. I go into every single home. I analyze it, I hotline, and I represent the children in court, and it's been a really big honor to do that. I hope I can keep doing it if I'm not prosecutor. So either way, I feel like I'm going to be a winner in this. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And let me just say, let's not ask questions of the audience as we proceed through the evening. You will have a chance to, after our round of questions, to ask the other candidate a question, but we won't have audience participation this evening for this program. Am I right in that, Mark? Okay. All right. I'm not making the rules here, folks. All right. So, thank you for that. I did want to mention that you will have a chance to ask the other candidate a question, to which you'll have a 3-minute response time also at the end of our questions, okay? So, and with that, then, Mr. Wayne Williams, if you would come forward, sir, and take the podium for 3 minutes. If you need 3 minutes. Sure.
Hello, my name is Wayne Williams. I'm the current St. Genevieve County Prosecuting Attorney since 2019. Just a little bit about myself. A lot of you probably don't know me. Some of you do know me. There's a lot of people here that do know me, but they keep me locked up at the courthouse pretty much every day. So I grew up in a small rural town in the state of Arkansas, and the population of the town was about 15,000 people, similar to St. Genevieve County. I had a dog when I was a young guy named Bofus. He was my best friend, and he was my bodyguard, and we did everything together. And that was really, really important to me growing up. I hunted and fished with my uncles. I'm a lifetime member of the NRA, and I've been a member of the National Rifle Association since the early 2000s. I went to public school, and I played football in high school, and I was a team captain in high school, And in 1980, we won a state championship, and that was a fantastic experience for a young man like myself. I resided in Farmington, Missouri for 22 years and practiced law there. I've resided in St. Genevieve County for 8 years now, maybe a little bit over 8, closer to 9. I practiced law in this judicial district for 30 years, and I've devoted my practice to criminal law completely. I've done no other type of practice for the whole time I've been here. I've jury tried about 50 cases, felony cases, in my career. About 21 of those, I was lead counsel on the case. It was my case, and I jury tried those cases. I had about 80 homicide cases in my career. Murder cases are pretty prevalent. And in those 80 homicide cases, I've jury tried 3 of those. And that is ironic because when I first became a prosecuting attorney here in St. Genevieve County, we had a murder. And I charged someone with first-degree murder. And as a result of our hard work on the case and my work with our law enforcement partners, that person is doing life without the possibility of parole in prison. And that was a very dangerous person. We took that person out of the community, and that protects everyone that's here and that lives in our community. In the first 7 years as your prosecutor, I filed over 21,000 cases, criminal cases, in our county. I've jury tried 10 of those felony cases in this county and in St. Francis County. Defendants have a right to request a change of venue. I have no control over that. And I've tried those cases. There's 3 cases I want to talk to briefly about. First was a statutory rape and sodomy case. The jury found that person guilty. They recommended a sentence of 240 years, and that person was sentenced to 240 years. I look forward to talking to you later. Thank you.
And thank you both for your opening remarks. And so, once again, I will repeat that question number 1 and address both of you. We'll ask you, Ms. Sheehan, to come to the podium first, please. The question is, once again, what is your position on cash bail, and how should wealth factor into pretrial detention decisions?
This has always been a difficult topic for me. And when I was with both my brothers, we did so many criminal cases, over 17,000 back a long time ago. When I was young, it took working there a long time. But this has always been a problem. And a lot of people can't afford cash bail, but some people have no problem whatsoever. And just because the poor people can't afford it, I hate seeing them sit in prison when the rich people can walk. I just don't think that's fair. So I think that cash bail should be based on the flight risk of the people. And people that have a job, people that have a family, people that own real estate aren't much of a flight risk unless they're a danger to society, like a murder case. I think that it's very sad when people are sitting in jail because they can't afford bail. And I would like to see more home arrests and ankle bracelets for the people that can't afford bail. Now, how should this factor into pretrial detention decisions? That's exactly what I'm thinking. Pretrial, these people haven't even been found guilty. And I don't want people that are innocent until they're proven guilty sitting in jail because they can't afford it. So I'd really like to see more use of, like I said, ankle bracelets, home arrests, ways to monitor these people without keeping them in jail, keeping them away from their family, keeping them away from people who depend on them for their jobs and depend on them for money. And there's just got to be another way to do this. I've seen so many poor people when I go to visit people in prison. So many poor people in there that ultimately were found innocent and sat in there for a long time waiting for their trial. So, thank you. Thank you.
The same question to you, Mr. Williams. What is your position on cash bail, and how should wealth factor into pretrial detention decisions?
The Missouri Supreme Court, a couple of years ago, I would say maybe 3 or 4 years ago, time really flies, initiated bail reform in the state of Missouri. All the judges in the state of Missouri are under a mandate to consider certain factors in determining whether, what type of bond to set in a case, criminal cases. There's basically three factors. The first factor is, does the person constitute a flight risk? The second factor is, are they a danger to the community, or if there's a crime victim, to the crime victim? And then the third factor is, does the amount of the bond amount to preventative detention? Those things are already factored in. The judges go through a checklist when we're setting bonds and stuff in court. Defendants are entitled to an automatic bond review within the 7 days of being arrested on a warrant. Those things are taken into consideration. I know that we set those bails from time to time. Sometimes the bails are set with a person who has electronic monitoring. That way, we know where they are. It doesn't absolutely guarantee they're not going to harm a victim or someone like that, but there are some guidelines and controls on that. So my position on bail is the courts have to follow the guidelines. And our judge does, Judge Inman here, I deal with him almost all the time on a daily basis, and he really goes by those guidelines religiously, and as he should. That's mandated by the Missouri Supreme Court. Should wealth factor into pretrial detention? It depends on what the charge is. If someone has murdered someone, I don't think it matters. If they're wealthy, if they're poor, if they're a danger to the community, they're a danger to others. We don't know what's in their mind, what's going through their mind. They've allegedly killed someone, although they are presumed innocent until they're proven guilty. At this point, the bond needs to be pretty high. It could be a cash-only bond, it could be a real high cash or surety bond, or it could be no bond at all. There's consequences to those types of bonds and options for the defendants who receive those types of bonds. But that's my position on the bail in Missouri. Thank you.
I think we thought you might just want to stay up here, Mr. Williams, because I think we're going to let you address the second question first. I believe that's what we decided on, so I'm sorry about that. So the question is, what is your position on using prosecutorial discretion in order to get better witness cooperation or to address racial or financial disparities? You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. A lot of people give the prosecuting attorney more credit than he deserves. We're not the fix-all and solve-all problems for everyone. We do have discretion on what charges we file. We do have discretion on, like if it's murder first degree or murder second degree, to an extent. We have discretion on that. We have discretion on plea bargain recommendations, whether to go to trial at all or whether to make a certain type of recommendation to a defendant in order to induce that person to enter a guilty plea. However, those decisions, that discretion that I have as a prosecuting attorney, is based on evidence, and it's based on the substantive law. We consider what the law allows me to do. That dictates a lot of what I do. The legislature, usually they have a range of punishment for these offenses, depending on what grade of offense it is. The reason there's a range is because every case is a little bit different. And not every disposition is appropriate for the same type of case. You could have 5 burglary cases and have 5 different dispositions depending on a lot of factors, like the criminal history of the defendant, how old that criminal history is it recent, has he committed the same offense before that he's charged with now, and what the evidence is in the case. Do we have a confession with good, solid evidence, or is our evidence kind of weak? These factors factor into prosecutorial discretion. We consider these things all the time, and that's kind of how I look at that. And then addressing racial disparities, I look at the evidence in the case. To me, if you're black, if you're white, if you're Asian, it really doesn't matter. It's, did you commit an offense? And do we have good evidence to prosecute you with for that offense? And then what should the appropriate disposition be? If someone has no prior felony findings of guilt, we usually recommend supervised probation with certain conditions. that probationary period is 5 years. And we look at that, unless it's a real serious offense. Obviously, we don't recommend probation for murder cases and things like that, or child molestation cases, but we're going to recommend probation on stealing and things of this nature. Usually victims, if there's restitution to be paid, they want their money back if we can make them whole. I rarely see victims say, I don't care about the money, send that person to prison, blah, blah, blah. They want to be made whole. And we try to get that money back for the victims. And the quicker the defendant can pay the money back, the quicker we can resolve the case and the better result he's going to have if he's a first-time offender. So as far as using discretion to address racial disparities, you have to be careful. You can't tamper with witnesses to induce somebody to testify a certain way or another way. We ask them to tell the truth. I've asked every witness that I've ever talked to tell the truth, and that's what we tell them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And now, Ms. Sheehan, the same question to you, please. What is your position on using prosecutorial discretion in order to get better witness cooperation or to address racial or financial disparities?
Prosecutor is part of the executive branch, and as such, they have wide prosecutorial discretion. And I believe that prosecutorial discretion should respect the victim, pay back to the victim, make sure they get restitution, what's owed to them, but it should also be within the parameters of constitutional rights toward the perpetrator also. Otherwise, the county's going to get sued later on if constitutional rights are violated. And that just costs the county a lot of money, and they're already in trouble. Next, as far as, we have a lot of drug dealing going on here, and that's really bothering me. And I'm not big on prosecutorial discretion of just letting them off because they've got a name that's been here a long time. The way I look at it is, I think, what if it's my own child or my own grandchild or my own nephew who died because of a drug overdose because there's some drug dealer down the street? And that's how I'm going to look at cases all the time. What if that was my family when I see these things? And the discretion, the way the discretion I would work in the office is to prioritize cases. On victimless cases that are, for example, minor traffic tickets, I would depend on the office staff to help me a lot with that, because those can be amended to non-moving violations if it's not a consistent, someone who has a background, someone that has a clean record, and it's a low-level, victimless traffic ticket. And I would reserve my efforts toward the more difficult, higher-level cases like murder trials, because those trials can take months and months and months and take a prosecutor away. And in the office, the office workers are really indispensable. I've had them in my office for years. So that's how I would do things, and thank you.
So we have finished with the two questions that we were posing to you. Do either of you want to address a question to your opposition? Yes? The answer is yes? Okay. If you would, please, then. You can ask the question, then you'll have 3 minutes to respond. Mm-hmm.
Terry, you've alluded to the fact that the county's already in a lot of trouble. You've stated at town hall meetings that there's a lot of civil cases and things of that nature filed against the county. Can you elaborate on what those cases are? Because I've consulted with the sheriff's office. I know of no cases that's been filed against the sheriff's office recently. There are no pending cases that we know of right now. And can you elaborate on why you would argue that there are civil cases filed against the sheriff's office? Plus, if you don't mind, I think you had alluded at a town hall meeting recently that the prosecutor's office has something to do with that. That's a civil matter. The prosecutor's office has nothing to do with filing civil cases against the sheriff's office or anyone else for that matter. If you could expand on that.
And you, again, will have 3 minutes for your response.
Yes. Thank you for asking that question. I was hoping that question would come. I don't know if you all are going to like my answer, but I'm one of the few people that actually will talk to people about civil rights in this county. And there has been a lot of people that have called me and are claiming that they have had their civil rights broken because of, although I like to point out that the police and the sheriff's departments generally are excellent. They're excellent, but there's some of them that are allegedly out there doing things they shouldn't be doing to other people and causing injuries. And I've heard it's happening in the jails. I've heard that people come in and they say they're suicidal and they're thrown in the hole and they hang themselves. And I ask you all, just take a look at CaseNet and look and see the types of cases that have been ensued. Now, when these cases, they come criminal too. And that's what I'm talking about. No matter who you are, you need to be treated fairly, you need to be treated equally. And that's why I've refused campaign contributions. I don't want anybody beholden to me to say, well, I contributed to you. I paid my own way. Not a penny would I accept, although they have been offered. And even if it's a bum off the street, or if it's a sheriff's deputy, if they violate somebody's civil rights and they do something to hurt people, everyone should be prosecuted equally, in my opinion. And everyone in America is innocent in criminal cases until proven guilty, and that has to be respected too, because that's a civil right also. And so I'm all in favor of treating everyone equally, no matter what they do. And even if a case, with these cases coming involving the sheriff's department, even if I was involved in one, by the way, and the sheriff's department settled it with me. And I did it volunteer. Even when they settled it, it cost them a huge amount of money to hire some lawyer out of St. Louis County to come down here and try it. Well, we didn't try it, we settled. And all these cases, even if they win, if this county wins, it costs a lot of money to try this. We have trouble in this county. We have a hospital that is no longer delivering babies. It's no longer doing home health care. It recently sold 3 used vehicles out of the newspaper, and they have laid off 1 to 2 people from every department. Now, I talked to some people who have worked there, and you can double check. Now, when we have a hospital that's no longer delivering babies, doing home health care, I believe this lowers our real estate prices. A strong hospital is important. And I thank you, and have a great day.
And thank you. It's your turn. Would you like to pose a question to your opponent?
Yes, I was wondering if someone who had offered a campaign or given you a campaign contribution, there's twofold. First, is the sheriff's department giving you any money to hire a assistant prosecutor?
So I just want to make sure I understand the question.
It's 2 questions that's going together. It's a compound question. Has the sheriff's department given you any money to hire an assistant?
Is that the question?
Yes.
You have 3 minutes to respond.
No, that's not the full question. And I'm sorry. And secondly, I've heard that the sheriff is making money over there with the ICE people that are detained. Are those ICE people going to have I heard that it was civil detention. Are they going to have their day in court anytime soon? Okay, thank you. Are you receiving money from the sheriff's department because of the ICE people?
Okay. So the question was, am I receiving money as current prosecuting attorney because of the ICE folks? I have nothing to do with ICE. That's a federal thing that is totally different. Sheriff Stolzer addresses that. Our detention facility is a big ICE detention facility, but it makes, it's detaining ICE detainees is very profitable for our county and really helps our budget out right now, especially after the recent legislations that's passed by the legislature, and we're hurting on that budget. I receive no funds whatsoever for something that doesn't even apply to me. That's not a state issue. I'm a state county prosecutor at a very local level. I have nothing to do with that. I receive no monies from that whatsoever. What was your second question?
Yeah, my second question had to do, and as far as the money, I've heard you say at meetings that Gary is giving you money to hire from the federal payments made to hire an assistant prosecutor. I heard you say that, sir.
That is incorrect. I did not say that at all. We are retaining we do have an assistant prosecuting attorney now. We've had him for 2 or 3 months. His name is Jack Compton. He is here in the building with us, sitting over here. If you could stand up, Jack. Yeah. I receive no funds from ICE or federal funds to pay or directly from Stolzer. Jack's money, the payment for his salary comes out of LERF, the Law Enforcement Restitution Fund, that we collect on criminal cases that we're statutorily allowed to collect. And when we collect that money, a decision was made that we're going to use that money. We use that money. We have a LERF board, by the way. The board approves how we can use the money, and we use that money to retain Jack as an assistant prosecuting attorney. There's a lot of oversight on that. We can also use it to purchase computers, to pay for expenses, to operate our office. The sheriff's office uses it from time to time. They can use it, and they're allowed to do that as well. But a LERF board makes a decision on that. We present a proposal to the LERF board. Minutes are taken of the LERF board, and that's authorized by the LERF board. So there's nothing, I receive no campaign contributions from anyone, the sheriff or anybody else. It's like I'm the poor guy in the county that is footing the bill for, my reelection campaign, which is fine, and I think it's great, but I don't receive any funds from anyone at all, period, for anything, for staff or any other purposes for that matter. I've paid personally out of my own pocket for my campaign signs, everything involved in this campaign. So I hope that answers your question.
No, that's the first part. The second part is, do the detainees when's their trials coming up? How long do they have to wait?
Well, that's like 3 questions. I'm getting kind of sideswiped up here with 3 questions. I don't mind answering it if you'll give me more time, but.
10 seconds.
Let me suggest this. May I? You were down to your last 5 seconds, 10 seconds there. I think you'll both have another 3 minutes to do closing remarks, okay? That's where we are in the program now. We've finished with the 3-minute question and answer period between the two of you. So let's move on to a 3-minute wrap-up and use that time to revisit any topics if you want to, but not so much question and answer, but rather address previous topics that have been brought forward here by the other candidate and or the questions that were on the program. All right? Sheehan, let's start with you. You'll have 3 minutes for your closing remarks, please.
And as far as when I talked about money going to pay for our new prosecuting attorney, and I think the office does need an assistant. I was at the Flash Cafe at the Republican meeting about 2 months ago, and Gary Mr. Stolzer, and gave a very nice speech, and Wayne talked, and they talked that Gary was paying for our assistant prosecutor, which I think we need one, but that's what I heard. Now, next, there's some questions about me being a Republican. I am a Republican, and I was very happy when Trump ran because he's a Second Amendment guy. And I carry right here in my hand my conceal and carry, which I've had since the very first time I ever get it. And constitutional rights are number one to me over everything, because all of our constitutional rights are no better than the lowest of low person, what they're getting. For example, the people in the detention center. We have no greater constitutional rights than they do. If we don't honor theirs, someday someone may not honor ours. And I, too, have accepted no campaign contributions. I've paid my own way on this. I'm beholden to nobody. And I'm not going to accept what I consider sort of like blood money from the sheriff to hire a assistant. I would hire him out of my own funds if I have to. So, thank you. Have a nice day.
And Wayne Williams, your final 3-minute closing remarks, sir.
Thank you. Again, folks, I just want to make it very clear that I am accepting no funds to pay for my assistant prosecuting attorney. There's no conspiracy. There's no, the fear-mongering is not a good political strategy, I don't think. And in St. Genevieve County, we all know each other in St. Genevieve County. There's no way I would ever take funds that the sheriff is giving me. Law Enforcement Restitution Fund is not controlled by the sheriff. It is a fund that we can collect as prosecuting attorneys. No other office holder at the courthouse can collect these funds but me. And we collect the funds as a consequence of court cases, as part of the court costs going through the system. And we collect that money on appropriate cases. And in this particular matter, we have a LERF board, and the board approved my using the funds this term to retain Jack Compton as an assistant prosecutor. Jack is from the St. Francis County Prosecutor's Office. We kind of, I think we kind of borrowed him from that prosecutor's office, and I don't know how happy they are with me right now. I would just like to say, look, I was a Democrat because everybody was a Democrat when I first got here. And then gradually people started to switch over to become Republicans. As a person that works well with law enforcement community, I have an excellent record, a trial record. You can talk to any defense attorneys, any prosecutors in the county, any judges, and they're going to tell you, yeah, this guy has a proven and successful record. So I've tried a lot of cases. I just want to say I have now that I'm a Republican, even before I was a Republican, I have the personal endorsement of Sheriff Gary Stolzer. I have the personal endorsement of Police Chief Dan Halick here in St. Genevieve, the city of St. Genevieve, and the Republican Club has endorsed me officially as their candidate for re-election as prosecuting attorney in St. Genevieve County. I would ask people to consider that. These aren't people that don't know anything about what's going on. These people know what I can do. They know and they're comfortable with how I work with criminal cases, and they're endorsing me. And I think that has some weight, and I would ask for your vote and confidence vote on August the 4th. Thank you very much.
And I thank you both for your participation, for your answers, and you're welcome to remain at the table if you'd like to, or if you're more comfortable in the audience, because your part of the program is over. And with that, we turn our attention to this side of the room. No, I'm sorry, no questions. No audience questions. Am I right, Mark? Correct, okay. So with that, we turn our attention to our candidates for state representative. I'd like to introduce all three of you first, and I'll do it in order of our incumbent here on the end, Bryant Wolfin. Thank you for being here, sir. Mr. Carl Kinsky, next. Carl, thank you. And Mr. Scott Sattler. Scott, thank you for coming. All right. So I'm going to fire 3 questions at you fellas. Give you a few minutes to ponder it, okay? Question number 1 will be, how do you feel you would be able to work with the 2027 House leadership to get legislation passed that benefits your constituents? Pretty straightforward question. I'll repeat it once. Again, how do you feel you would be able to work with the 2027 House leadership to get legislation passed that benefits your constituents? Everybody good? Question number 2 is, what are your plans for making sure counties and other local entities are not deprived of their deserved sales tax revenue? I'll repeat that. What are your plans for making sure counties and other local entities are not deprived of their deserved sales tax revenue? And question number 3. How do you intend to, quote, feel the pulse of local residents and make sure you are addressing the issues that concern them most? Let me repeat that. How do you intend to feel the pulse of local residents and make sure you are addressing the issues that concern them most? Everybody good? Okay. Bryant, how about you take the podium since you're here on the end? Make my life easy. We'll just go 1, 2, 3, and then 2, 3, 1, and then 3, 1, 2. Okay? With these questions. All right. So the question again is, how do you feel you would be able to work with the 2027 House leadership to get legislation? Oh, thank you. Good. I've got you all out there. All right. So opening statements from Mr. Bryant Wolfin. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Thanks to St. John Herald, Mark, and Mike over here. Appreciate you guys for putting this on. I mean, great crowd here tonight, so I think you guys, even on short notice, did a great job getting the word out. I would also like to thank Carl and Scott here for stepping up and running. It takes a lot of guts to run against an incumbent. Believe me, I know. I've done it before. A lot of hard work, and that's what makes this country so great. If you may not feel that you're being represented to the way you want, you can run against your representative. So as Bill said, my name is Bryant Wolfin. I'm our current state representative here in House District 145, which consists of Perry and St. Genevieve counties. And I'd also like to thank you guys. I am very grateful for the 2 years that you guys have afforded me, and just been honored to be your voice in Jefferson City over the last 2 years. So a little bit about me. First and foremost, I am an extremely blessed father of 4 kids, including the baby that y'all heard in the back. Sorry, guys. She loves to hear me talk, not so much other people, I guess. But I am also the luckiest man in the room, as I've been married to my wife, Megan, back there for 13 years now. And I promise if she was not in the room, I'd still be saying the same thing. We own and operate BMW Convenience, which is the gas station in St. Mary, but we also own one in Fredericktown, Missouri as well. Before starting our business, I graduated from Mineral Area College with a business management degree. And my wife and I moved back here in 2013, back to St. Genevieve County, and I kind of restarted my career at Gilster Mary Lee. So I started in manufacturing before becoming an entrepreneur. 2017, I was lucky enough to be appointed onto the 2017 St. Genevieve Public Access Television Board. And then from there, I ran for alderman as our current presiding commissioner, Randy Ruzicka, decided he was not going to rerun, so I filled his position and had the best kind of campaign, which was unopposed. So shortly after, I currently serve on I'm the treasurer of the St. Genevieve Republican Club, and I'm also the treasurer of the St. Genevieve Republican Central Committee. In 2020, my family moved out to the county, and we've been there ever since, where we love it, and our neighbors are cows, which is awesome. So we also go to church at Chestnut Ridge out Highway 32. So why am I rerunning? Why did I run the first time? Well, I ran because I didn't feel like there was enough people that representatives and legislators that were focusing on liberty. So the first time I ran, I wanted to be that champion of liberty that I felt we so desperately needed here in Missouri. One who was going to stand up for our liberties, and one who was going to preach constitutional principles, which I can confidently say here today I feel like I've done, at least in my 2 years, and I'm hopeful to do again. All right, so last but not least, what I want to do is I want to keep being the loudest voice for this St. Genevieve revenue issue. In my first year, there was 3 legislators that filed legislation to reverse that. Second year, I was the only one, and I feel like I'm the only voice that's there. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And Mr. Carl Kinsky, your opening remarks, sir.
Can I take my phone up so I can track my time?
You sure can. Yeah, we'll track it for you, too.
Right. Thanks. So my name is Carl Kinsky. I am a Democrat. I am not going to apologize for that, especially not in this year, considering the state of the country in this year, and the state, especially in Washington, D.C. But I want to tell you a little bit about myself. The day that I graduated from high school, 24 hours later, I was in boot camp at the United States Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego. That does not make me a hero. I got more out of the Marine Corps than the Marine Corps got out of me. I learned self-discipline. I was a little bit wild in high school, and the Marine Corps kind of beat that out of me. It also helped me pay for college and for law school. That, scholarships, some help from my family, and some loans. I graduated magna cum laude, which meant something to me 40 plus years ago, but means nothing to me now. I also graduated with high distinction from Duke University on a scholarship. I started my law work as an assistant public defender in St. Louis, and I was there during the crack epidemic, and I defended a lot of people in those cases. I then moved down here to St. Genevieve County and became the district public defender in St. Genevieve County, and I tried cases, probably well over 100 jury trials in this circuit. And I learned something when I was prosecutor. You listen to the evidence, you listen to what's going on, and then you decide what you're going to do. And you decide whether or not you can compromise. And if you can't compromise, I also attribute this a little bit to the Marine Corps, you fight like hell. So that's the lesson that I had, and from that, I became the prosecuting attorney for St. Genevieve County for 20 years. And I have defended, I have prosecuted, no side has a monopoly on angels, and I have served on both, and I think there are good people on both sides. I have been on the health board for St. Genevieve County for more than 10 years. I've been on the Planning and Zoning Commission for the city for, I believe, about 7 or 8 years. I have been active in the Foundation for the Restoration of St. Genevieve. I have no family from St. Genevieve, no lineage, but I want you to know, whatever way you vote, this county is my home. And I love Perry County as well. I see we've got people from Perry County here as well. This is a beautiful area. So that's who I am. I will later on at the end tell you why I'm running and why I think I would make a great state representative. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Mr. Kinsky. And with that, turn the microphone over to Scott Sattler. You have 3 minutes for your opening remarks, sir.
Thank you, Bill. Well, just like Brian, I just want to thank everybody to be here, the St. Genevieve Herald, Bill for moderating for us, and all of you for coming out, and especially the veterans for all your service. I'll give you some background on me. I'm a conservative businessman. I'm a Navy veteran. So I was Carl's Uber driver when we had to get the Marines to any place. And I built, over the last 30 years, I built a career on economic and workforce development. For over 30 years, I've worked to strengthen local economies, support job growth, and create opportunities for working families. I was the executive director in Perry County for the Perry County Economic Development Authority for 10 years. And then during that time, I also helped the commission up here, former presiding commissioner Gary Nelson helped them with when you had your flooding and all that. Got some funds from the workforce board to help you guys up here. But after that, in 2021, I started my own consulting firm. I do economic and workforce consulting all over the country, and also disaster recovery. Even though I don't work there anymore, I've remained very involved in the community. I'm president of the board for the Sheltered Workshop in Perry County. I'm also very active in the Missouri Economic Development Council, which is a statewide organization of economic developers. I'm a past district governor of Lions Club. I'm currently working with your Lions Club up here on some issues. And then a board member of the Perry County Community Foundation, and actually led their disaster recovery back in 17 for the tornado and then the recent tornado, the funds we come in. And then I'm vice president of the Military History Museum, very active for veterans in there. I've said this before, I'm not a career politician. I am a problem solver who understands Missouri's needs for the work, supporting our working families and keep our communities safe and thriving. As a business owner, I care deeply about our communities. It affects me and how I call it home. I share the region's values and beliefs on government and should reflect our conservative principles. I'll always stand with law enforcement. I'm actually endorsed by the Missouri Fraternal Order of Police, fight for smaller government and lower taxes, and work to encourage job creation and future generations of Missourians have the opportunity to thrive. I believe wholeheartedly in our Constitution and the Second Amendment, and I am proudly pro-life and stand firmly on the rights of the unborn. So why I'm running is just over the last 2 years I've been concerned about our voice in Jefferson City, and I want to be that voice that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And so for our round of 3 questions here, the opening question, and we'll address this to you, Bryant Wolfin. First, sir, how do you feel you would be able to work with the 2027 House leadership to get legislation passed that benefits your constituents? You have 3 minutes, please.
All right, thank you, Bill. All right, well, it's a concerning situation with leadership in Jefferson City because, unfortunately, I don't feel like the leadership in Jefferson City has our needs in their heart. And I think Missourians all across the state feel that way right now. And that's kind of why this previous session, I nominated the guy who ran against our current speaker because I felt like that was the guy who would have made the best change that could have brought representation back to Missourians as a whole. Right now, we operate under what's more of a monarchy. We have a king at the top, and if you don't fall in line with what the speaker wants and needs or other House leadership, then you know what, your legislation is probably not going to go very far. And so there's 2 ways you can look at that. One way you can look at it and say, you know, if I do whatever they say, I become rank and file, I fall right in line, then, you know, my legislation might go somewhere, maybe. But they still have to like it. Or you can kind of stand up and educate people on how the House actually works and how right now, if, like I said, if you don't fall in line, then nothing matters. And so leadership right now has a stranglehold on all legislation from the whole process, so they can stop something at the snap of your hands here. And that's an issue. And that's something that I wasn't expecting to come in and necessarily fight, but I felt like we, as people of Missourians, were not being represented properly. Article 1, Section 1 of our state constitution says the government derives its power from the people, not from leadership, and not from those who have, from special interests that currently rule the roost in Jefferson City. So I will go there once again, and I will be the loudest voice for trying to change this revenue issue that we have in flipping this. As I said earlier in my opening remarks, you know, there was multiple representatives that went in there in our first year and had legislation to try to reverse this mining sales tax exemption. But yet in the second year, I'm the only one who filed that same bill and continued to try to push to reverse it. Why is that? Because leadership doesn't want it. The special interests don't want it. They're not listening to Missourians. So I will be that loudest voice once again to continue to try to wake Missourians up. And we need it from the grassroots level. We need it from the people. We need folks to understand that the leadership right now in the House, regardless of party, does not have your best interests at hand.
And Carl Kinsky, the same question to you, sir. How do you feel you would work with the 27 leadership to get legislation passed that benefits we, the constituents?
Thank you. Well, first off, voters have to consider the curve. You have 3 candidates here, so you're going to have to decide which one is the best. With all due respect to Mr. Wolfin, he told you just now he won't work with the leadership. And he won't work with the leadership, and he may have a perfectly good reason, because the leadership is terrible. The leadership basically is interested in money that comes from special interests. That is what Mr. Wolfin is telling you, and on that, I largely agree. So the question, frankly, with all due respect, is a little bit stupid, because you can't work with the leadership. The leadership is going to tell you what to do. The leadership is going to say, do this, and you can either buckle in and do it, or you can't. And Mr. Wolfin has admitted that he basically can't do anything with the current leadership, and I'm sorry for that. Now, I am a Democrat, and so you may very well be asking yourself, well, if the Republicans are the leadership, why on earth would we elect a Democrat? That is a legitimate question. First, the Republicans hate nothing more, the Republican leadership hates nothing more than somebody like Mr. Wolfin. They hate because they feel betrayed, and they can't accommodate Mr. Wolfin because it would send a terrible message. So they actually would prefer to deal with a Democrat who talked to them openly and honestly. And believe it or not, there is cooperation with the parties on many issues up there. And I am 65 years old. I don't need this job financially, and I will be honest with that leadership. Like I said, as an attorney, I learned you can compromise. Compromise is not a dirty word. If Mr. Jefferson or Mr. Washington were here, they would tell you the same thing. So if you believe that you've got to vote for a Republican all the time because they are the current leaders, then our democracy is doomed. Nothing but doomed. Now, I don't know Mr. Sattler, but like I said, you're grading on the curve in this case. It is a little bit mysterious that a man who's never run for public office, as he said, is now running against Mr. Wolfin. And I don't mean to impugn anybody's character. I'm sure all of us would do the best we could if we are elected to the position, but the bottom line is you've got an incumbent who has annoyed the leadership, you've got a candidate that basically came out of nowhere that's running, and you've got a candidate who's a Democrat and who's honest and has told you that and will never deny my party affiliation.
And Mr. Sattler, Scott Sattler, the same question, sir. How do you feel you would be able to work with the 27 House leadership to get legislation passed that benefits your constituents?
Yeah, thank you. So one thing I want to clear up, Carl, is I've worked behind the scenes for 25 years in Jeff City, so I know, and I've already built all the relationships that need to be going. I personally know, the incoming Speaker of the House. I've worked with him on different issues on economic development. I've been very active. That's one of the things in all my years of public service that I'm very known for, and that's building relationships, building trust, and showing leadership. I've been able to negotiate for the benefits of our communities over, like I said, 25 years. I have done this. So to go to the point of, I know Mr. Wolfin has submitted that bill, and unfortunately, it hasn't gone anywhere. But I would carry on, and that'd be my first priority, is to work with that and move forward so we can get that our mining industry paying back what they should be paying. I mean, it's crippling the county's budget, and we need to fix that. But overall, like I said, I've already built those relationships, and I would continue to work on those, not just legislators, but departments. I'm good friends with a lot of the directors of departments, so I can get those answers and talk openly with them and try to get working, with the Department of Economic Development, Department of Revenue, and find out all those things as far as issues. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, all three. Question number 2 is, what are your plans for making sure counties and other local entities are not deprived of their deserved sales tax revenue? And we'll start with you, Carl Kinsky, this time.
When I first heard this question, I thought it was a trick question. There is no candidate who can make sure that counties and local entities will not be deprived of sales tax revenue. If you hear a candidate say they can assure that, that candidate is either lying or just plain incorrect. But I will try to do that. Missouri has 100 and I believe 32 sales tax exemptions. And most of these exemptions, maybe not most, but a significant number of these exemptions came from state senators and state representatives who, for whatever reason, decided that people who have chickens and eggs should be exempt from paying sales tax, or this group should be exempt from paying sales tax. So what I think, in all honesty, if somebody goes up and says, I want to get rid of this one sales tax, the mining, or I want to reinstate the mining sales tax, get rid of this mining exemption, they're going nowhere. What you've got to do is look at all 132 of the sales tax exemptions and basically clean house. Because right now, this is a result of 40 years of politicians carving out obscure exemptions, and they need to get rid of them. Now, the other thing that needs to be done deals with the problem of reading legislation. We were screwed by the state legislature, and I understand Representative Francis says he didn't know what was in the provision. But you know who also got screwed this last session? Madison County, Fredericktown. They got screwed because of critical minerals and critical pharmaceuticals. They are now exempt of sales tax. And I appreciate that I learned this basically from listening to the county commission here in St. Genevieve. And Mr. Wolfin acknowledged he didn't know that that was in the bill. And I don't think anybody knew that was in the bill except the Republican leadership. So now Fredericktown is in a position similar to St. Genevieve. And I don't have a guaranteed solution on this, but I want to propose one that I would suggest to the legislature. I am a computer moron, but there is this thing called AI. And AI is being used by lawyers in contract disputes all over the place. And what they're doing is they're showing the latest documents to the blooming computer, and they're saying, what are the changes in this blooming statute? What has the Republican leadership slipped into the statute? Some critical exemption? Well, we need that sort of AI so that we can make sure we know at least what the statute we're voting for means and will do. Thank you.
Scott Sattler, your turn, sir. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yeah.
Okay. What are your plans for making sure counties and other local entities are not deprived of their deserved sales tax revenue?
Thank you, Carl. That was exciting. So, sales tax is a big issue. One of the reasons, let me start with, actually, that's been what I've done for many years as far as a financial professional, certified financial professional for economic development. So I can actually get in and read those bills, and in the Navy, I was a comptroller and dealt in government accounting. So I know how to go in and work on that. One of the things I'm looking at doing is getting on the budget committee. I've already talked to several people to help get some funds back into southeast Missouri in our district. Sales tax, one, again, I mentioned earlier, was the big one that's affecting St. John County, Iron County, and Madison County. You're correct. But that is, again, special interest groups working to do that. One of the things, being a Navy vet and all armed forces, anybody who's been in the service knows that you work 7 days a week. You can get up early in the morning, and I admire Wolfin's work ethic, because he does a great job getting there early and reading the bills. And that's also what I promise to do, is read those bills to find out what's in there, to make sure that something is not getting by. That happened when I was the Economic Development Director in Perry County. We were working on getting Rankin in there, and it was a $5 million thing, and then the legislator at the last minute changed it to, we had to come up with 50%. Well, because I continued to read those bills, I made Rick Francis, our representative at the time, aware of it, and he got that changed, so it wasn't costing our county any money. So I'll promise the commitment to be there, to do it, and to read those bills and find out what's in there and work to help us in our district. Thank you.
And Bryant Wolfin, same question to you. Your plans for making sure counties, local entities are not deprived of their deserved sales tax revenue?
Thank you, Bill. All right, I do want to clear just one thing up real quick in regards to the Madison County situation. I think Mr. Kinsky might have misunderstood or misheard. It was a little hard hearing in that room, the commissioners' meeting. What I said was we didn't know the bill was coming. So I did see it in the bill, and I was actually the only representative that got up and inquired of what we were trying to do here, because it felt to me like leadership was trying to sneak this through on us. And this was on like the last 2 days of session, and this was not on our for lack of better terms, docket. So like it wasn't on our list of bills we were hearing. And I just so happened to see the statute on the bill. We do have software, and I was reading through the bill, and of course they were trying to fly through this thing, and I quickly got up and I made the bill handler aware of like, hey, you know what's going on in St. Genevieve County, which he did not, in Iron County, which he did not. And I said, this is the very, and I brought it up about Madison County. I said, this is the very thing that happened in St. John County, and it's going to hurt Madison County too. And so I did notice that, and I was the only one to point that out, and I voted no. So, plans to make sure the counties that are not deprived of their sales tax revenue. Similar to what Mr. Kinsky said, I do agree. It's going to be a tough hill to climb, as we've seen that. And as I said in my opening remarks and a little bit ago, that I've been the only one that's been a loud voice of trying to change this, and we are slowly moving the needle. We are waking between myself and then the commissioners being diligent and going to Jefferson City 4 or 5 times out of the year. Adair County's commissioners getting involved now. Jim Skaggs out of Iron County. We are slowly starting to move the needle and wake these representatives up to know what is going on in our community. So moving forward, if I'm reelected, I will file the same bill again. I have intentions to meet with the Department of Revenue about potentially tweaking some language, maybe making it more specific, and trying to, I don't know what that bill looks like yet, so I don't want to, just spurt out anything, but I will be meeting with Department of Revenue. We're going to change some language and continue to work on it. It will be my #1 priority. It's the first, the only, I don't want to have another hearing on another bill unless I get this heard first.
All right, and moving on to question number 3. How do you intend to feel the pulse of local residents and make sure you are addressing issues that concern them most? Scott Sattler, the podium is yours for 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. Thank you. So one of the things I've always been proud of is an open door policy. You'll have my number, you'll have my email address. I'll communicate with you weekly on newsletter, what's going on in Jeff City, and then I'll have a call list, say an education bill's coming up on the floor. I'll call the superintendent, Paul Taylor, and say, hey, what's your opinions on it? Or Farrah Jones in Perry County, how's this going to affect you? that'll be, you know, a primary means of communication, getting out and reaching out to people. And then having people come visit me, listening to constituents. And then when I'm home on the weekends or even on non-sessions, have town hall meetings, meet with groups such as, you know, the Rotary, Lions Club, any clubs that would let me listen or let me talk to them. I'd be glad to be out there and get their opinions on different bills, so that they know what's going on. And that's one of the things that I made at the last forum, and it's going to be my guarantee that if you reach out to me, whether by phone or email, I will, by the end of the business day, get back to you. It might not be the answer to the question you have, but at least acknowledge your question and find out exactly what your issue is, and then get back to you with the correct answer or the resources you need to answer your question. Open door to everybody. Look forward to talking to all of you and looking forward to representing you. Thank you.
And the same question to you, Bryant Wolfin, regarding feeling the pulse of your constituency.
Thank you, Bill. So a similar answer to Scott, actually. You know, some of those things that he's mentioned, I already do. You know, in the fall last year, we got all the elected office holders in both counties together, and along with the state senators for each county, and we had and even some city officials as well. And we got together and we discussed what the priorities were going to be, or things that they were wanting changed, or just things that they heard come down the pipeline in the past. And so I was first year doing that last year, and I intend on doing that every year as long as I'm afforded the capability. I also, you know, toured schools and all the school districts, and not all of them, but the two publics for sure, and met with leadership and administration in both schools. And of course, I do have an open door policy as well, you know, and an open office or phone, excuse me. And I have my legislative assistant, Rachel. Many of you have maybe talked to her in the past. She's fantastic. She's great at making sure that things get to me as soon as possible, so that way we can call you back as well. And so I intend on continuing to do that. You know, I come from a customer service background with our gas stations, and so I came into this office with the intention of trying to make our office as constituent service friendly as we possibly could be. And I once again, to this day, I feel like we've done a pretty good job at that. Has it been perfect? No. We've had some growing pains in our first 2 years, but I know this year was better than last year, and I know the next year will be better than this year. And I hope to continue to do that. When bills do come out on the pipeline that come down the pipeline that may affect the local counties or a specific office, I have often sent emails or have called offices, whether that's, I know the sheriff's in Perry County, City Administrator Britt Breerick from Perryville, we've discussed a lot. I know we've gotten the assessor, the counter, the collectors in both counties, the clerks in both counties. So, you know, we have that outreach, and we'll continue to do that if reelected.
Okay, that concludes the questions that we had for you. It's your Oh, I didn't know. That's right. Okay, thank you, guys. Like I say, it's a good thing you all are here and keep me on track, right? Where are we at? It's your turn, Carl. Yeah. Why don't you come up here and take the podium for 3 minutes?
Sorry, that's okay. Just do it for the other guys.
Yeah.
When I first heard the question, what are you going to do to feel the pulse of the local residents, the constituents, I thought that all of the candidates were going to say the same thing. And I feel like I'm going to say the same thing. It's obviously important to know what the people are worried about, what they're concerned about, and to listen to them. And I believe that I've done that. During this campaign, I've gone to more county commission meetings than I ever thought that I would. And while sometimes I might chime in, I mostly just listen. I've talked with the tax assessor here in St. Genevieve County. I've talked with other elected officials. So I believe there are two things that you can do to know the pulse of the county. You can go directly to the people and talk to them. And you can talk to the local county officials who've got a pretty good idea of the pulse of their own counties. I would suggest in expedient terms, it's talking to the county commissioners where you'll get the best, quickest, most bang for your buck conversations. But I also want to talk about one thing. When we talk about the pulse of the county, we have a tendency to think that everybody in the county thinks the same, that we all have the same philosophy, the same ideas. We disagree on a number of things, and there are minority views and there are majority views. If I am elected, I would gladly go to a Republican Party meeting and say, here's why I'm doing this, and if you think it's wrong, please tell me why it's wrong. There used to be a time in this country when you could have conversations between parties. And I remember many good occasions when you would sit down with somebody who disagreed with you on political issues, have a beer, get up, and think, that was a lot of fun. It was good to have a discussion with him. I learned some things. I learned where I thought I was wrong. I learned where I think I'm still right. I want to go back to those days. I want people to feel free to tell me that I'm wrong. I want to feel free to tell them, here's what I think and here's why. That is what I intend to do. Now, all of us have said the same thing, and I'm not going to say any of us are lying. I think all of us intend to listen to the pulse beat of their constituents. So thank you.
My apologies to Mr. Kinsky. I was not trying to cut you out of the program, sir. I was merely distracted by making a point of clarification with our sponsor on the next part of the program, which we're moving into right now. So, thank you all for your responses to our questions. And so now it's your turn to shoot a direct question to one of your other opponents. You have to unfortunately select one or the other, right? Because they have a 3-minute response time to your question. Try to be succinct with your question, please, and let's try to avoid compound things that are going to take far more than 3 minutes to answer, okay? So with that, let's start with our incumbent. Bryant Wolfin, would you please take the podium?
All right, so maybe I misread the guide that we got. I thought it was to both of them. So I guess if I had to choose, Scott, since our election is right around the corner, is that okay? Does that make sense? And, you know, feel free to retaliate as well. So I'm sure you were planning on it anyways. All right, so.
Can I take the podium for a
Yeah,
second?
yeah, go ahead.
Suggest something?
Yeah, sure.
I think part of the reason that we just had that discussion was for a matter of keeping the meeting short than dragging on too long. But if the audience is comfortable with a 3-minute response from both candidates, since I was unaware that you all had received information that you're going to be able to ask both candidates, one or both candidates.
Maybe I misread. I'd have to go back.
That we go back to the 3-minute format for both? Good? Everybody good with the evening ended up being 9 minutes longer, right? I think that's what it is, okay. All right, so, all right, so we'll go with both candidates.
Appreciate that, Bill, and if that was my misunderstanding, I apologize for throwing a wrench in here. All right, so my question would be, obviously in Jefferson City, we get a lot of omnibus bills that I think are unconstitutional, violate Article 3, Section 21 and 23 of our state constitution. If we have these big omnibus bills that come down the pipeline, even if there is some good in there that you could feel good and take back home, but if a bill is unconstitutional, will you uphold your oath to defend and support the Constitution?
Carl, would you like to respond?
Sure.
Okay. First.
See how it goes. I haven't really had much time to digest the question, but what he's referring to is the single subject clause of the state constitution. And the single subject clause basically says a bill that's being introduced has to have just one subject, and it's got to be in the title, and it can't be changed all that much in the process. It is a very unusual constitutional provision, and it is a gold mine for some lawyers. Because what exactly is a single subject? You know, the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution gives us freedom of speech and freedom of religion. Well, that's two things. So would it be unconstitutional, or would it violate the single subject provision? This has been litigated countless times. We have Amendment 3 coming up in November, and that says, in effect, no surgeries for to switch genders for children, and it also addresses abortion. That's two topics. That violates, in my opinion, certainly the spirit of the single subject clause of the Constitution. Now, Mr. Wolfin puts a lot of weight on that clause, but it is subject to interpretation. And I always come back to the motto of this state, which is, I'm probably going to butcher the Latin, but it is salus populi supremo lex esto. The welfare of the people is the supreme law. So I'm going to look at whether the legislation helps people first, and then I'm going to look at, is it unconstitutional, and is it clearly unconstitutional? This provision is subject to interpretation. The one that he has put his hat on and has hung his hat on is subject to interpretation. Omnibus bills are exempt from the single subject clause if they relate to expenditures. So budgets are exempt from the single subject provision. There is a lot that is exempt. The courts in this state have said that Amendment 3, which includes these surgeries for children to switch genders and abortion, they've held that that is a single subject on the basis that they both somehow deal with reproduction. So when you say, I'm going to defend the single subject clause, you've got to look at, is it clearly a violation? If we want to honor a building in Perryville and a building in St. Genevieve, is that a violation of the single subject provision? Most of us love the Constitution. I love the Constitution. But the Constitution is a document subject to interpretation.
And Mr. Sattler.
So I agree that there is some ominous bills on there. However, the section he's talking about, again, Article 3, Section 21, and I agree with Carl, there's interpretation for that. So basically, the core intent behind the bill cannot change from its original filing to its final passage. Basically, it stops the legislators from taking a shell bill, say, about disabled license plate, and replacing its contents with taxes late in the session. So let me give you an example, something that would violate that. A bill is introduced, and original purpose was reforming municipal parking regulations. Near the end of the session, the Senate adds an amendment that completely changes the bill to legalize recreational marijuana. So that does violate Section 21 because the original purpose, parking regulation, was entirely changed to a new purpose. So now I'll give you an example of something that would be in compliance with the section. A bill is introduced related to city sales tax and is amended to include hotel, tourism, and tax provisions. The courts generally find this acceptable because it is considered germane to the original purpose of the regulation. And so as they fall within the original or overall subject matter. And actually the Missouri Supreme Court has often stated that as long as the amendment is germane, related to the original purpose, it is acceptable. So again, I would have to look at the bill, find out all what's in it and how it benefits Missourians and how it benefits our district. And that would be my guiding principle on that. Now, there's some of them that I won't, like abortion or anything. I will not waver on that. I will not support anything that has abortion because I'm 100% pro-life in that. And, you know, and I'm looking to represent you. I'm not there to be an activist for a certain group or for a specific issue. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Carl Kinsky, it's your turn to address a question to one or both of your opponents. Sir.
Can I direct this to both of my comments? What, if any, role should local government or voters directly have in determining whether data centers can be built in their county and what regulations should apply to those data centers?
Everybody here? Could you come to the microphone, please?
My question is, what, if any, role should local government or voters directly have in determining whether data centers can be built in their county and what regulations should apply to those data centers?
So I know data centers is a hot topic right now in a lot of counties, cities, states. And unfortunately, everybody has cell phones and it seems to grow. One of the things I think about data centers, it needs to be transparent on if they're coming into your community or not. And we need to work on environmental issues. I know a lot of the data centers, of the old data centers, were sucking up, you know, water aquifers and leaving people without water. Power is always an issue, and that's been an issue before data centers. So one of the main economic development site selection criteria right now, it used to be labor and land, but now it's, do you actually have power to support the project that's coming in, because our power grid is old and it has issues. So a lot of our communities actually don't have the power to support data centers. So the main thing is, you know, to work with to make it more environmental. Some of them are actually looking at modular reactor, which they pay for and put right next to their data center, so it's not using your power and it's not increasing your costs. Also, a lot of the newer data centers are using recycled, just like your heat pumps and those kind of things, where it's not actually pulling from your water source other than for, you know, bathrooms, kitchens, and those kind of things. So I think it needs, if it goes forward, the community, the county, the city needs to be involved in it, and it needs to be transparent, and it needs to be more environmentally safe and to bring into our communities. So thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Carl, for the question. I think it's a great question and very relevant to today's political climate, specifically here in Missouri. So for me, the easiest way to keep the people involved is to keep it local. You know, too often at the state level, we micromanage things. We micromanage what counties can and can't do, what municipalities can and can't do. We set in preemption laws, so a county can't do something, or you can't prevent a specific business from coming in. And it's all well-intended, but at the end of the day, it should be left up to the locals to make that decision, not the state government. And so for me, what rather than it just be a simple yes or no, what I would like to do is allow for the counties to make this decision. You know, we see here in Festus, clearly the voters in Festus, or Crystal City, I think it was, whatever, in Jefferson County, they clearly didn't want it. And so, you know, the citizens made their voices heard, and that should be done in every single county. You know, maybe a data center doesn't work here in St. Genevieve, but maybe it works in Perry County, or maybe it doesn't work in Perry County, but it will work in Cape. But we, as the legislature, need to be giving the tools to the counties, the elected office holders in the county, the elected office holders in the cities and municipalities to be the ones to make these decisions. And that's where your voice could be the loudest heard, not in Jefferson City. So, thank you.
And Scott Sattler, if you have a question for one or both opponents.
Sorry, Carl, I'm going to leave you out because I don't have a question for you. I only met him one time at a chamber event, and he came up and introduced himself. So this one is for you, Bryant. And this will probably play into your no campaign, but so you campaign on a platform that Missouri must do everything in its power to protect the unborn. Yet you were only one of 2 Republicans to vote no on Senate Bill 999, the landmark Born Alive legislation, in this last session. How do you explain to a profoundly pro-life constituents in Perry and St. Genevieve County that a constitutional ideology is more important than giving a baby born alive with a botched abortion a fighting chance at life?
It's a good question, Scott, and I appreciate the opportunity to kind of explain this vote. So Senate Bill 999 started off in the Senate as the Abortions Survivor Protection Act. And so if there is a botched abortion and the baby survives, then in the end, that baby will be afforded the protections just like any of us would, a person. Well, we actually also in the House had an identical version that we passed all the way back in February, which I proudly supported and will support every time. It's a single subject bill that it was one of our first bills that we passed in session. It goes to the Senate and it dies. So then the Senate, during the last week of session, decides that they want to bring up Senate Bill 999, which is this bill. And, well, the Democratic Party decides that they're going to filibuster this. And, well, with the last week of session going on, the Democrats threatened to filibuster through the rest of the session, which would have killed any other legislation coming down the pipeline. So they had to make a deal. And that deal was to load this bill up with unrelated criminal offense legislation. And not to mention, we actually gutted the Abortion Survivors Protection Act. Originally, it was 4 pages with additional protections in there, and we gutted it down to 1 page. So in the end, Senate Bill 999 was 1 page worth of pro-life provision out of a 32-page bill that was all unrelated to abortions. And to hit on Article 3, Section 21, this bill started off with the title and the subject related to abortion, and instead we changed it to relating to criminal offenses. And that's what we do all the time. Yes, it is up to interpretation. But I would argue Missourians want a strict interpretation of the single subject rule. Oklahoma has almost identical language in their constitution, and they follow it because their Supreme Court has been more stringent and strenuous on their legislation. Heck, they actually have bill page numbers on their website you can go look at, and you'll see it's 2-page, 3-page, 4-page. Go to ours, we don't have bill pages. It's because they're all, anywhere from 30 to 205 to sometimes over 300 pages. And it's just not a good way to govern. So I got up very frustrated on Senate Bill 999, and it's on my Facebook. Anybody can go see. And I said, how dare we put babies' lives at stake when we didn't have to? We could have passed this as a single subject bill just like we did in the House, but we failed babies. And so, yes, I was the only one that voted against it. But what's going to happen is this bill is going to be challenged in courts, and it is almost 100% it will be challenged. And I would put so much money that it will be stricken down in the courts. And we wasted taxpayer money in defending this bill, and we potentially to put babies' lives at risk, and that I'm not okay with.
Okay, we're coming to a close in our evening here with final statements from the 3 of you. You'll have 3 minutes to give us your wrap on anything you care to readdress from the evening and or new information about yourselves or whatever, however you care to use 3 minutes. Let's start with Scott.
So again, thank everybody for coming out tonight and allowing me to speak with you. I do care deeply about our communities and people who call it home. I share the region's conservative values and believe our government should reflect our principles. I will fight for smaller government and lower taxes, and will work to encourage economic growth. I believe it is our duty to ensure future generations have the opportunity to thrive right here in Missouri, rather than having to leave our state to seek jobs of the future. Some of the committees I didn't mention earlier that I'm looking at was budget, because of my experience in government finance and budgets. Agriculture, because that is our top economic driver of our communities, both communities. Veterans, because I feel deeply, I'm a veteran and feel deeply about veteran and passionate about that. And of course, economic development, which is my 25 plus years of experience. I believe that we have to have a voice in determining the direction of our district. We need to have a change this August. Our district needs to send a real conservative Jeff City, someone who will support conservative legislation and work with House leadership to move forward policies that will make a lasting difference for our district in Missouri. So, and I had a brain fart there. Anyways, questions. Some questions I like to always ask and end with, and these are for you to ponder, and you don't have to answer them. Do you support our veterans? Do you support protecting kids? And do you support protecting the unborn? Unfortunately, our representative has voted no on all these issues, and I look to, and it's hard to get anything passed when you have no support in there. And again, I'm known for building relationships and leadership, and I plan to do that. So I ask for your vote on August 4th.
Carl Kinsky, would you care to wrap us up here for 3 minutes?
Folks, I want to be the bearer of bad news. Missouri is on the edge of a fiscal cliff right now. We got a lot of money during COVID. We spent that money, and I don't mean to disrespect anybody who served in the Navy, but we have spent that money like drunk sailors. And the time that money is gone. We, for a time, met our requirements about funding education. We have failed that this year. We are no longer providing full education monies for our schools. So we need to understand that there is going to be belt tightening, and there is going to be a necessity to look at taxes. We'll have to do both. I want to also talk about a problem that is facing St. Genevieve County. We have been involved in a lawsuit with Wholesome for years and years, and the issue in that case is basically whether or not conveyor belts and equipment that is bolted to the floor counts as real property, or does it count as personal property? And the answer to anybody who's been to law school is clear. It's real property. It's fastened to the floor. But this is the issue that is being challenged by Wholesome and has been challenged for years, and it has put tens of millions of dollars that the county could use in escrow. And perhaps we will get a decision this year, perhaps we won't. But what I am afraid of is the State Tax Commission. The State Tax Commission is a political animal, no more, no less than the Republican leadership. And the State Tax Commission could very well say, no, you can screw the bolts out, take away the conveyor belts, take out the machinery, and therefore it's personal property and does not increase the real property value of the mines. So one thing that I would look into doing, and I have talked with assessors in this, I would look into introducing a statute that says the obvious, that If you bolt it to the floor, it's part of the building and it increases the value of the property. And I believe that a bill like that could be joint and it could be passed by the legislature because it makes sense. Now, Mr. Wolfin may say I'm naive on that, and perhaps I am, but it's a very simple proposition, and it's a very simple sale to make, and it is absolutely essential for this county that that be done, because if we lose that wholesome suit, it's going to make the disaster that we had with the mine sales tax look like just losing a flip of a coin. Thank you.
Bryant Wolfin, your comments, sir.
Thank you, Bill. All right. Thank you again for everybody, to the Herald for sponsoring, Bill for moderating. It's a great crowd. Love to see all the red here tonight. I got the best supporters, so you guys are so awesome. And once again, thank you to these two gentlemen. I know at the end of the day, regardless of the outcome of the elections, I know I'm better. I'm a better person. I feel like I'm doing, they've made me better in this position, and I hope moving forward, however the outcomes, you guys would be that way too. So competition makes everybody better. I'm a capitalist at heart, and like I said earlier, that's what makes this country so great. Look, guys, as we've alluded to all night, or as I've alluded to, I guess a little bit of Mr. Kinsky as well, but Jefferson City is broken. As I said in my opening, I don't feel like it's working for the people. And when you go there and you see that both parties have us lined up with special interest as soon as we're elected to try to get campaign checks and try to get funding so we can donate to our party and our superiors for political power, you realize that's the only thing that matters. And I take issue with that. So, yes, I vote no a lot. We've determined the constitutionality to me is important. I have a standard. My standard is constitutionality above all else. If it does not follow the Constitution, then what's the point of having a Constitution? So that is my number one standard. Number two, I'm a champion of liberty. I'm a champion for small government. If it grows government, the legislation grows government, I'm going to also vote against it. And then number three, if it's just bad policy, I'm going to vote against it. Now, there is one exception. If I have a multitude of constituents that reach out to me and discuss an issue that they think is important, and we think that it is going to benefit the county, and we think that overall it's going to benefit us, then we will make an exception. I have voted for bills that I did not necessarily believe in because my constituency reached out. And that is the most important thing we can do as a people in Missouri. Talk to your representatives diligently. Out of us three, doesn't matter who it is, reach out to us, get us on speed dial. I know I give my number out. I believe Scott gives his number out. I'm sure Carl would too. So that's what is important. If we could leave with anything here tonight, is that as I started the night, Article 1, Section 1 says the government, the state of Missouri derives its power from the people, and that's you. And we need you to stand up and do that. So I hope you guys afford me another 2 years. I'm going to continue to keep fighting for these constitutional principles. I'm going to keep fighting for us with this tax revenue issue. And lastly, I just want to leave you with this. At the end of the day, me and my family are so grateful for the opportunity that you guys gave us. My kids know more about the legislative process right now than probably most Missourians, and I'm pretty proud of that. And that's because of you guys giving us the opportunity. So thank you guys, and have a good night.
And with that concludes our evening. I want to thank again the St. Genevieve Herald for putting on this informative event for us, for St. Genevieve Public Access Television, and finally to you all who are here to stay interested in our government and things that are happening within our city and county and district. So thank you all for coming. It's been my pleasure.